Today I want to talk about manifestation. And I'm calling it the manifestation paradox. And while commercial manifestation gurus are doing their best, including me, to point out the obvious, when we seek, we conceal. When we want, we keep things away from us. And so the workaround is often touted as don't seek, don't desire, stop searching, let it go. And so your ego might get a hold of that and wonder, well, how do I stop desiring? Which is another kind of wanting and clinging. And the circle goes round and round. And that's the paradox, the vicious circle I want to explore, especially if you're trying to manifest the life of your dreams. So there's no hack or no shortcut. There's no magic bullet or key. It's a principle of understanding that manifestation, like all things, is a paradox. I hope you'll stick around. The principle I want to explore today is something you've already experienced. Because I've asked a lot of people if they've experienced this phenomenon where if you lose a pair of earbuds or a ring or something you really like, and you tear up your house searching for it, that obsessive fixation on finding it is what keeps it away. Because we've all experienced this forget about it, stop searching, surrender, let go. And a period of time goes by where you're not even thinking about those earbuds or that ring or that precious heirloom that you lost. And it shows up when you least expect it. So this begs the question, how does one live in a state of least expectation? We often think that great expectation, great aspiration, leads to monumental legacy. But this is the paradox of the manifestation conundrum. It's when you stop searching and you least expect it. And you've been there. You've given up the search for a romantic partner, not in the sense of being bitter, but recognizing how happy you are by yourself, for example. And when you least expect it, the love of your life bumps into you in the produce section at Kroger. And you occupied a state of least expectancy. You had forgotten about the search for love. You've forgotten about those earbuds. You've forgotten about that ring. It didn't mean anything to you anymore, and you weren't fixated on it as something missing in your life. You were content without it. So content that you stopped thinking about it. And so the commercial manifestation guru says that's the frame of mind you want. To be in that state of already having found it. That's what Neville Goddard called living in the end. And I have to tell you that that's true. It's true. When you least expect it, that's when things show up. But what I can't tell you is how to do that. Because if you're seeking how to stop seeking, you're still seeking. You're still looking. You're trying to find the back door to this lost, missing thing. So when Jesus said, "Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven," that sets off a game that you play with yourself. The minute you seek, it is concealed. What's interesting is that you and it are synonymous. Seek ye. Seek you. You seek first this thing called the kingdom of heaven, which is a way of saying, find yourself. But I'm not lost, I'm here. Know yourself. Am I unknown? So the game of seeking and hiding are implicit in the actions that you take. And so I could also tell you to let it go. Quit thinking about it. Stop worrying is another way of saying worry. If I say stop worrying, the ego will get a hold of that and say, well, I'm worried about how to stop worrying. And the vicious cycle continues. Well, how do we get around the manifestation paradox? It's in this concealment that we must understand hiding and seeking. And what most people are concealing is stillness and silence and darkness, the so-called nothing. So the guru, the philosopher, the forest dweller, experiments with something they've never done before. Nothing. I think I'll try nothing. I've exhausted everything on my plate in this life, and the one thing I haven't tried is nothing. The one thing I haven't listened to was stillness. The one thing I haven't seen is darkness. And so the guru goes into the forest, closes his eyes or her eyes, and sits in the stillness. And at first, it seems like a vacuity, a void, a scary place like being locked in a coffin with no air. And that's your first thing, is to realize you're afraid of dying. You're afraid you might die. That's how silly this paradox is. You're afraid that you just might die. And everybody said, well, you are going to die. That's right. But you haven't come to terms with death, and that's what death is as a term. So the guru continues on his or her journey into nothing and darkness and silence and stillness. Not being afraid of that so-called void. What happens is interesting. You develop night vision. So consciousness itself is like a little tiny pinhole for some people. And they haven't let the light in, so to speak. And if you sit in a dark place long enough, the pupil dilates and it gets bigger. And it lets in more light. And what you begin to see is that you can kind of see in the darkness. Consciousness is like that, like a pupil dilating, or a sphincter. Most people, their consciousness is as tight as an asshole. They're constipated. Mentally, physically, they're inhibited. But once the consciousness, once the awareness starts to relax and dilate, you can see that the darkness is not empty. Stillness is not without its information. You see, you've been hearing this from people since the dawn of time. Someone ought to look into nothing. And so the guru does that very thing, not because he is seeking or feels like something is missing, but because he or she is frivolously curious. What's in the dark? What is death? What is this paradox we call life, if it isn't already dead? And the whole thing is a dream, and you wake up in the dream. If you're dreaming, and you become awake in your dream, do you wake up all the other characters in your dream? Well, how do you do that? Should we let them just keep sleeping? No. You got to play along. And what's happening if you're watching this and you're following me and you're like, oh my God, he's speaking to me. It's that your consciousness is dilating. You're being drawn to the silence, or maybe the silence is being drawn to you. It's hard to tell. You're being sucked into the darkness through suffering. Death is beckoning you, but not because you're afraid of it, because you're curious. What is the unknown? What is the silence? What is the stillness? What is this darkness? And when the pupils dilate, you see the darkness is not void, but intelligent. And this metacognition is being aware that you are aware. Knowing that you know. Sentient of your own sentience. And that's where the circle is complete, and you realize it's just happening. The dawning, the epiphany, the manifestation is just happening. And you're following a natural progression that is already unfolded. The next time you lose something, catch yourself frantically searching for it. And what's interesting about the word manifestation is that it means caught in the act. Catch yourself acting like you can't live without it. Catch yourself fixating on it. And get into that space of least expectation. That's not aloofness. It's not renunciation. It's dilation. It's understanding. It's what the ancient mystics called gnosis. It's a kind of knowing that you know. It's a kind of awareness of being aware. It's a kind of seeing that you see. And that's the place of least expectation. It happens when you least expect it. You welcome surprise. You walk around in wonderment and befuddlement and stumble. And all is well. You're improvising. You know, the stillness, the silence, the darkness. Someone ought to look into that. You might be surprised at what you find. That there was nothing to seek. In the same way that nothing was hiding or lost. So manifestation. You'll get it when you least expect it. My name is Ryan. I hope that you enjoyed these insights. At least they were entertaining. Hopefully. Check out my blog, mymorningmotivator.com, or one of my books on Amazon. And thank you for watching.